Hi everyone, welcome, and today we're learning how to make a trouser, and this method will avoid problem with your crotch. So these are the measurements we need. Just do well to follow the measurements depending on the specific measurements you're working with. So we'll just get right into the tutorial. Okay, so first I will measure our starting line. That will be 1 inch from the top of the paper. Measure it all the way. Then the next thing is to get our measurements. So we'll place the tape on the starting line and get our crotch length. So that I'm not using a specific measurement because of the paper. It's not so long, so I'm just working with 10. So let's say if it's 10, that means the person's hip is 40. So that's to get our crotch height. It's 40 divided by 4. That will be 10. So that's why I'm marking 10. And then marking all through. So the next thing is to get our hip line, and that's -2 from the crotch length. So since the crotch length is 10, we'll just subtract 2 from it to get our hip line. So that's 8, because 10 minus 2 is 8. Whatever you get as your crotch measurement, just subtract 2 from it, and that's your hip line. So I'm just marking it all through. Then you roll out the lines properly. Then the next thing is to get our knee line, our knee measurement. So I'm just using 18 here because my paper is short. So you just insert whatever measurement you have from your customer. If it's waist to knee, if it's 25, 23, 24, just put it there. Please just ignore this 18. I'm just working with this because of the height of my paper. The next thing is to place a 1 inch allowance by the side, either for your side zipper or just basically the side seam where we'll be joining by the side. So just place that 1 inch. I like to work with just 1 inch. I think it's enough. So I just mark 1 inch by the side of my paper all through. So if you're cutting directly on your fabric, just mark 1 inch by the side like this. Then the next thing is to get our hip measurement, and we're working with a fitted trouser, so usually whatever measurement you get, your hip, if you're working with the hip 40, it's 40 divided by 4. Then I like to add 1 inch for ease, especially if it's a fitted trouser, but you might not necessarily need that if it's a flare trouser or a palazzo trouser, but just to be safe, you can still add 1 inch for ease. So if I get 10, that's 40 divided by 4 for my hip measurement, and I get 10, then I'll add 1 inch for ease. But here, instead of working with 10, I try to work with 9, then extra 1 inch to make it 10, so my paper would be enough. Then you mark the same thing on the hip line, whatever you get, plus your 1 inch for ease, you mark it on the hip line, and same thing on the waistline. Then you join the points together, and then we go ahead to insert our front crotch extension. Remember the formula we we said in the beginning of this video is front crotch extension is hip divided by 20. So you make that calculation, whatever hip you're working with, you would divide it by 20, and that would give you whatever it gives you, 2 point whatever, 2.25, whatever it gives you, you put it here. But I think if we're working with 40, then to give you 2. So, and I think I just used 2 because, I'm just playing around with any measurement because of the paper. I'm not using any specific measurement. So I used 2 here, so whatever it gives you, you apply it to your paper. So just mark the 2 and use your curved ruler to connect the lines. Then the next thing will be to work on our waistline. From the crotch line, you place your tape from the crotch line and you mark your waist measurement, whatever waist measurement you're working with. You divide it by 4 and you place it there. So I'm just marking my waist measurement. Then I'm adding 1 inch. You add 1 inch for a dart if you're working with a dart. If you're not going to use that, then no need for that extra 1 inch. But if you're going to apply that, then make sure you put that 1 inch there, and then you connect that line, the dart line, to the hip line. Then we work on our dart lines. You place the tape again from the crotch line to that exact point of your waist measurement, not the dart allowance. You divide your exact waist by 2 and you mark it there. Then on each side you take out ½ inch. Then we get the dart height. I'm working with 5 inches. You could do 4, 4.5, or 5, whichever one suits you. And then you connect the lines together. Then the next thing we'll take out, we'll go up by ½ inch, we'll go up by ½ inch on the waistline, the side waist. We'll go up by ½ inch and connect it to the crotch area or the dart area. Just basically connect it to the other end of the waistline using your curved ruler. So that's what I'm doing here. Then the next thing is to get the midpoint of our trouser. We place our tape from the side seam to that crotch measurement we got, and then whatever value you get, you divide it by 2. This is important so your trouser doesn't tilt to one side when you sew. So we take that measurement all the way down. Whatever you get, if you divide by 2 and you get 6, take it all the way down. Then the next thing to do is to put our 1 inch allowance from the waistline to connect to the initial one we put for the side seam. Remember when we put the darts, we didn't put 1 inch for side seam, so we're just going to put that now. Very important. So we put 1 inch to connect to the initial one we put, so everything is balanced. So now we are going to insert our knee measurement. This is the measurement you actually take. So you actually take your customer's knee. If it's 23, whatever you get, since this is a pencil trouser. But if it's a free trouser, then there's no need to insert your knee measurement. You will just use this entire allowance that we have. You just take your measurement straight down. But since we're working with a pencil trouser, you need to measure your customer's round knee and divide it by 2. So for knee measurements, divide by 2. So here, I think I was working with 5. That's 20. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. So you have to put 5 on each side. So whatever knee you get, divide it by 2. If you're working with 20, rounding of 20 divided by 2, that's 10. So you take 5 inch on each side, then you connect it. Connect from the hip line, that's what I'm trying to explain here. Connect from the hip line to meet the knee and then your ankle. So the down, well, my trouser, this is not long because my paper is short. So from the knee, then you get your ankle, whatever round ankle you get. If it's 18, you also divide it by 2 and connect the lines together. Now, since we tampered with that knee and ankle area, we're going to have to replace our seam allowance, 1 inch measurement, so we have no issues. So that's what I'm just doing there, putting 1 inch back, so we have our 1 inch allowance all the way down. So I'm just going ahead to indicate where the allowance is, because I noticed there's so many lines there, so we don't get confused, to indicate that, okay, this is our 1 inch allowance, so we do not get confused. So we're done with our front pattern. Just go ahead and cut it all through. I'm just indicating how we cut. We'll cut it all through and then get to the back. So for the back, we don't need this 1 inch allowance, so we'll just fold it like it is not there, or just fold it and probably pin or tape, whichever one you want to do. But if you're cutting directly on the fabric, make sure you fold that 1 inch allowance, because we will not be needing it to cut the back. So that's what I'm doing right here. Then we get another paper for the back and place the front on the back. Usually you leave some allowance by the seam, by the side seam, by the side, maybe 2-3 inches depending on what you need. Usually I just measure and see what I need to be sure that it's enough. Then for the back, from that crotch line, from the front crotch line, we're using the front to cut the back. So from the front crotch line, you go out, or rather go in by 0.75 for a small size, but for a plus size you might want to do 1 inch. So I'm just going in by 0.75. I'll just mark that there. And then on the waistline, I'll go in by 1.5 for small size, and then 2 inches for a bigger size, still on the crotch line but by the waist area. Then I connect the lines together. So now we have a new crotch line for the back. This one we have here, so that's where we'll be taking all our measurements. So now you place the tape from the new crotch line to get your hip measurement. So now place it there, whatever your hip is, divide it by 4, add 1 inch for ease, the same thing we did for the front, and then you mark it there. So I'm working with 9, 1 inch for ease, that's 10. So I'll just mark it on the new line, the new paper for the back. Just mark it there. The same thing for the front. We have a new crotch line again, so it starts your new measurement from that crotch line. Take your waist measurement, then add 1 inch allowance for your back. That's if you will be adding that to the back. Then extend all the lines so it's easy for you. Extend the waistline, extend the hip line, the crotch, the knee line. Extend all the lines. Remember, we took the hip measurement from that new crotch line, so we got the hip and we marked it here. So whatever distance you measure, if it's 1 inch, that's from that line, from that hip side seam, you take the same thing and put on the hip line from the crotch. So we had 1 inch there, so I put 1 inch 2 by the hip line, so we can have a straight line by that area. I hope you understand. Then I'm connecting the lines together. Then the next thing is to extend the waistline. For the back, it's supposed to be high so that when you sit, your bum will not be exposed. So I noticed my paper is not enough, so I had to cut out a piece of paper to add to the upper part, the waist area, so I can take the measurement. That's what I'm trying to do here. After that, we take our 1/2 inch allowance by the upper part of the waistline, just like we did for the front. So by the side seam, we go up by 1/2 inch on the waist area. Then by the crotch, by the upper part of the crotch, the waist area for the crotch side, we go up by 1.5 inch. 1.5 inch because it's a small size or a normal size, but if it's a plus size, we're going to go up by 2 inches. So now I'm just working with 1.5 inch. Then you connect that 1.5 to the 1/2 inch. You connect it together. Then connect all the lines that need to be connected. Just connect them together. Make sure everything is well aligned. So remember that 1/2 inch we marked by the waistline. I noticed I marked it on the former line instead of the back, so I just adjusted that. So I put the 1/2 inch where it's supposed to be. That's the back measurement. So I'm now connecting it together. So that's it. Then the next thing is to get our back crotch extension. Remember the formula is our hip divided by 10. So divide the hip you're working with by 10, whatever you get. If it's 40 divided by 10, you give you 4. So you add your 4 or 5, whatever you get. You start from the new crotch line for the back and extend it and mark it there. Then you use your curved ruler to curve it and curve it nicely. So make sure you use your curve ruler. If you are really good with freehand, you can also use your freehand, but make sure it's a nice curve. Then the next thing is to connect from the crotch to the knee line, also using our curved ruler, the slightly curved part of our curved ruler. So you connect from the new crotch to the knee and then to the ankle. So I'm just tracing what we did on the back pattern. I'm just tracing it nicely so I can cut. Remember, the front is placed on the back. So I'm just tracing it to appear on the back pattern, so that when I take out the front, which is taped to the back, I still have my lines and I still see what I am cutting. So that's what I'm just doing here. I'm just tracing it nicely. Then the next thing is for us to add our side seam allowance. Remember, what we have is just the exact measurement. We've not added our seam allowance because we folded the allowance for the front to cut the back. So now we're adding the seam allowance for the back. 1 inch, same 1 inch all through from the waistline to the ankle. Then we cut the back pattern and we are done. So I'll just go ahead and separate the front piece from the back piece, and we have our patterns. So this is for a fitted trouser, a pencil trouser. If you want to make a palazzo or maybe a boot cut, just make sure you do not take the knee measurement and the ankle measurement. Just take from the hip, just take it straight down and you would have that. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. And if you make yours, let me know how it went. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.